Welcome to the All About Everest podcast, episode 13, Kids Edition Special. This podcast episode is going to be about a young teenager's perspective about climbing Mount Everest. And here we go. This podcast episode is a kid's special and a kid's perspective about climbing Mount Everest. And then you'll have your regular podcast episode on Wednesday. This Wednesday's episode is going to be about the 2015 Everest disaster and will include further updates. So let's go. I want to welcome our special guest, Neva, to the podcast episode today. Thanks for coming on, Neva. How old are you?
I'm 11.
And why did you want to come on to the podcast?
Because your podcast seems like really fun and like exciting, so I wanted to try doing an episode with you.
Thank you so much. I love that you like to be involved too. And what is the subject of our podcast episode today? What are we going to talk about?
We're going to be talking about young kids that attempted or successfully climbed Everest.
So the reason why Neva wanted to be on the podcast today was that we wanted to talk about young people who are climbing and have summited Mount Everest. So the reason that Neva and I picked this as a topic, young kids climbing Mount Everest, for our first episode together is because this year, Lucy Westlake from Naperville, Illinois, is attempting to become the youngest female American climber to summit Mount Everest at the age of 18. In fact, she's going to be graduating while she's on Mount Everest. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about is that Mount Everest is pretty dangerous. Why is it dangerous, Neva?
You could get altitude sickness, you could run out of oxygen, and you can fall through crevasses.
Right, and what happens if any of those things happen to you, or you get caught in an avalanche, you fall off the mountain, things like that? What can happen?
You can die or you can be severely injured, which I don't think somebody's going to come and get you. So you're probably going to end up dying.
And why do you think that no one's going to come get you?
Because they have a higher risk of dying.
Right. If you are trying to rescue someone on Mount Everest, it's more than likely that you're putting yourself at risk and you could get hurt too trying to save them. So even with all of the dangerous stuff on Mount Everest and the risk, why do you think there's so many young people who have attempted it, have summited, but there's also those who still want to do it, like Lucy Westlake?
I think it's because, it's like a thrill. Like, you're going to be, like, the first person to do this, or, like, the youngest person, or the oldest person. I think that climbing it, you can tell a story, and the more stories you can tell, the more people that are going to think that you're exciting.
So you think that it's partly adrenaline and partly world experience, but also something exciting to tell to people around you?
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth putting yourself in that dangerous predicament of possibly dying?
It depends on who you are.
What about you? Would you do it?
If I was doing it for, like, a cost.
What do you mean?
Like, if I was doing it for, like, something, then I would maybe do it. Depends on what it is. But other people, they just want to do it to have, like, a story to tell.
Or an accomplishment?
Or an accomplishment, yeah. Or it might be on their bucket.
Would you do it if it was free or if you got paid?
Yes, I would.
You'd do it either way?
Maybe.
Maybe?
It all depends. It's just, thinking about it, it sounds like scary because I'm only like 11, so I want to live my life instead of having marks on my hands and like all over from doing that.
So basically, you wouldn't do it because you're afraid of getting injured, like frostbite or losing fingers and toes, because that can happen.
Yeah, because I need my toes.
You need.
I do.
I think most people need their toes.
Yeah.
It's kind of important for walking.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think it takes a special type of person to climb Mount Everest?
Not really. You could be any person to climb it.
So you think that anybody, as long as they want to do it, should and could climb Mount Everest?
Should? Probably not, but could? Sure.
Okay, that's fair. Who was the youngest boy to summit Mount Everest?
Jordan Romero.
When did he summit Mount Everest and how old was he?
1996, and he was 13 years old.
And who was the youngest female to summit Mount Everest? Purna.
Perna. She was 13 years old and 11 months.
And when did she complete the summit?
2014.
So both Jordan Romero and Purna, they were both 13, even though Jordan was a little bit younger by a couple of weeks. Do you think that they could have done it all by themselves with no support?
No.
And why is that?
Because I'm pretty sure of what I've heard that they had people just like carry them up there basically.
Maybe not carrying them,
Well,
but they had a team.
Yeah. But I do respect it that they paid that much money just to get up there. And that's really nice that they
It is expensive to climb Mount Everest. Any mountain is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But Mount Everest is between $60,000 to $100,000 per person on average. You can go cheaper, you can go more expensive.
What about the base camp? How much would the base camp be?
I think that trekking to base camp, it can run between $2,000 to $10,000. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It just depends. Is that something that you aspire to do?
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a few
We have.
years. That we're gonna have to save.
When you're 16?
Yeah, we're gonna have to save up a lot for that.
Right. But that's something that's feasible, right?
Yeah.
And it has minimal risk compared to summiting Mount Everest?
Not really.
Actually, Neva, trekking to Everest Base Camp has less risk than summiting the mountain, and you do get a lot of the same experience because you are essentially climbing up mountains. It's just not as high or as dangerous. So one of the things that we discussed the other day, do you remember last weekend where we were sitting in the living room and we were talking about if a good parent is someone that lets their kids climb Mount Everest or not because of the risk? Do you remember talking about that?
Yes.
And what do you think?
I think that I wouldn't want my child summiting Everest at such a young age because there's a risk that I would lose them. So, yeah.
And if you came to me today and I told you, yeah, go climb Mount Everest, what would you think of that?
I would be very surprised. Very.
And why is that?
Because I don't think you would let me do that.
I probably wouldn't. Not because I don't think you can do it, because I honestly, if anybody could do it, I think you have the gumption and the stamina and just that extra thing that climbers have that there's not even a word to describe it. And I know you're going to do big things, but I think it would be hard for me to put you at that risk, especially if you did it without me. There's no way I can climb Mount Everest. Can you imagine me climbing Mount Everest?
I mean, if you really tried to, but probably not.
And why is that?
Because you like Everest, but I don't think you've ever wanted to climb it.
I haven't. I honestly, I am scared to do it, and I don't think I have that extra something that most mountaineers have. Because those kids had Sherpa support and oxygen, do you think that that's cheating?
No,
Why not?
because everybody uses oxygen.
Right. Over 90% of climbers use oxygen. But what about team support?
Depends on how many people you have.
Do you think that they could have essentially done it without Sherpa support and oxygen?
No.
So, do you think that they deserve those records for being the youngest people? I mean, there are people that work their entire lives to reach the summit of Mount Everest and don't get to it. So, do you think that their achievements aren't as big as someone who has been working towards the summit for, 10, 20 years?
Well, I think that they earned it, but they didn't at the same time. I don't think that they should have gotten like a big trophy, like if they did. But
It's not necessarily a trophy. It's a record in the Guinness Book of Records. You know that big book we have in the living room
yeah,
with all those records?
yeah,
I think we were just looking up Everest records today,
yeah,
such as the youngest person and the oldest person and the first female.
yeah.
Do you think it takes away from other people's achievements, though?
Yes, because if you're basically just making people carry like all your stuff, and all you're carrying is like air and a few things, I think that everybody should be carrying like equal amount.
Do you think that because they needed that extra support, but also because they, I guess, didn't have the longing as much as other people that are older than them, that might um, put other people's achievements as like less?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So, Neva, let me ask you one more question. You, as you are right now at 11 years old, you're almost 12. Do you think that you have the capabilities to accomplish summiting Mount Everest right now?
Not right now.
Do you think you could in 2 years?
No.
And why is that?
Because I might, like, I'm too young for that. I couldn't withstand, like, the traumatic things that could happen.
Because there are traumatic things that can happen on the mountain. We've discussed this, and when I've researched other episodes, Neva has been very helpful with that. And what's one of the most traumatic things you think about climbing on Mount Everest? What are some of the things that scare you if you were to attempt to summit Mount Everest?
Altitude sickness and, like, snow and ice.
Why would those scare you?
Because I already have to drive on ice, I'd rather not have to climb on it.
And why is that?
Because you have to use these sharp things and it takes a lot of strength.
You mean like an ice axe?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
And are you afraid that something would happen?
How do you mean?
Like we talked about the dangers of Mount Everest, right? So if you're scared of like the altitude sickness and climbing on the ice, what about those two things make you scared?
I'm scared that, like, if I do get altitude sickness, I think that I'm gonna see like something that I really don't want to see.
And what else can happen when you have altitude sickness?
You can hyperventilate
And die.
and die.
I mean, we've talked about that quite a lot because some of the most dangerous things on Mount Everest is, the ways that people die, which are falling into crevasses, avalanches, altitude sickness, um, physical illness caused by weather, hypothermia, and things like that. So I guess basically we can summarize that Neva will never attempt to summit Mount Everest. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because you could die.
That's pretty much it. And we love you and we love having you around. Thanks, Neva, for coming on to the podcast episode. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No.
All right. And next month, we'll have another kids episode. It will be the 10 best facts about Mount Everest for kids. So don't forget to tune in at a regular time on Wednesday for the 2015 Everest disaster. Some quick updates. And don't forget to rate, subscribe, and save because that helps us keep this podcast going. All right. See you next time.